right, so we're gonna go ahead and do our second drawing activity. It's gonna end up looking something like what you see here on my paper. I'm gonna show you guys how to draw two squares below the horizon line and one above. After I'm done showing you this demonstration of these three, I am gonna have you come up with your two more over here on your own. Without me demonstrating how to do it, I'm gonna have you guys do two additional ones. So when you're done, you'll end up with 5 different squares. And so essentially they're all exactly the same as in that they have to go to this vanishing point, and all of the lines go to that vanishing point. So even if your square is over here, it will just go to the vanishing point here. If it's over here, it'll just go this way. When you get to that point, you just have to make sure that you don't run into your already drawn squares. And these three I have traced over with a color pencil just so they can pop in color and you can see them better. If you do not have a color pencil to do that, just go ahead and use your own pencil and just make the lines darker so I can actually see a really clear, distinct box. It's like a cube, right? Think of it as a see-through box where you can see like the back edges, you can see the inside lines, but they're lighter than the exterior lines. So think of it as kind of like a see-through box. In order to do this, you're going to start off with a brand new piece of paper and move that out of the way. And the first thing that you are going to do is put in your horizon line. Just like you did with your other assignment, that is the same. You're gonna go across your paper. This one I'm gonna bring down just a little bit more because I wanna leave space for that one box above. So I'm going across my paper. And again, I'm gonna do mine dark only so you can see it better. So there's my line from edge to edge of the paper. And then for my vanishing point, again, you can eyeball this. It doesn't have to be exactly, but just to give you perspective, I am going to make mine about 7.5 inches. So right above that, I'm going to put my vanishing point right here. I'm making it a little bigger than I normally would, only so you guys can see it. Once you have that in place, the first box I'm going to draw is this one right here. And the way you start these, all of them, is that you have to draw the square here first. If you happen to have a stencil or something to trace, that's fine. I'm gonna just draw my square but freehand, and I'm just gonna draw it in the corner down here. I want it to be kind of a big square. Mine's gonna be about 2.5 inches, and I am just kind of estimating here, so I am definitely freehanding my square. This is a little tricky to do, so I don't blame you if you want to trace something. So there, that's kind of approximately a square to start off with. Again, I encourage you to trace something if you have a square. Once you have it in place, from each corner, all 4 of them, you are going to draw lines to this vanishing point. So here's my first one. And remember, the goal is to go right into the center of the vanishing point. Don't go towards it and miss it. You want to go right into the center of your vanishing point. And I'm drawing my lines a little bit on the light side only because I don't want them to be dark all the way through, because you want to trace over them when you're done and you don't want to be able to see your pencil. So far I've done these 3. My next one is the one on the inside. For this exercise, we're going to go on into the interior of this box. If your box was solid and you didn't want it to be transparent, then you would not even do this corner. But for this exercise, we want to make it look like it's a see-through box, so we're going to do that. Once you have all 4 corners done to the vanishing point, the next part is to create the back edge of the box. So it must be parallel to the front. This box is straight, it's flat. So some of these terms are going to be kind of like from geometry class. Parallel lines, you should know what a parallel line is. Hopefully you do. So I'm going to go ahead and draw mine back here. This is the back end of the box. So this is like the top. Think of it as a cube. You could stand on top of this. So if this is the back end, this line is parallel to this line. And this is where your boxes will look weird if they're not. They'll look like there's something wrong, like they're flimsy, and you don't want that. You want your box to be solid looking. At this point, when it runs into this line, that intersection, you're gonna draw another line going straight down parallel to this one. That creates a right angle. So at that point, you just draw straight down until you hit this line, and that's where it stops. This is the back corner of this corner here. And so far we have the top and the side. The last part is to do the interior. And so same thing, where this line hits here, you're gonna go straight across because you need to create the back end of this front line here. This is where it's helpful to have a see-through ruler because you can just look through it. If you don't, it's not that big of a deal. And it stops when it hits this line going to the vanishing point, because this is the inside edge of this line, of this box. And the last thing to connect is this to this, because that technically is parallel to this line right here. Okay. So now I have all of my lines to my box. At this point, I would trace over it. I realized that this is kind of light. I used a pink, so it's not like the brightest color, but see how I've traced over the initial front square that I made, and then the line that goes to the back end of the box that goes straight down that is parallel to this one, and it runs across here. That is like the exterior part of the box. So go ahead and trace yours over, and the only thing you're going to erase is the inside line right here. This line that goes through the back end, you're gonna get rid of it. Everything else you can keep. I wanna see these just in pencil, and if you need to trace over with a pen, that's fine too, but just something that makes it stand out more. Once you're done here, you are going to come over and do this one, this littler one here. Same idea, but instead of going in this direction, now you're going in this direction to the vanishing point. So I'm gonna go ahead and model that for you. Once I'm done with these two, I'll do this last one, and then so I can understand and understand that you know how to do this, I'm gonna ask you to do two more over here in the empty spaces. So let me do this one for now. I'm gonna start off exactly the same again. I am going to make a box somewhere around here. It's gonna be a little bit smaller this time. And again, if you have something that you can trace, great. If not, no worries. And it is a little tricky to get, you know, really straight lines. It's not exactly a square. It looks a little bit more like a rectangle to me, but close enough. And then I'm gonna go to my vanishing point. And again, you can come from the top if you want, whatever works for you. You want to be careful not to smear your lines. And the whole goal is to go right into the heart of that vanishing point, right smack in the middle. Sometimes if you pass right by, even if it's just a hairline, you can see it and it's off. So make sure you get as close to the center as possible. This is really about precision. You really want to be precise with your lines and your lines going into the middle of that vanishing point. So I've done 1, 2, 3, and now I got to do the same thing that I did over here with this corner to this corner as well. So I'm going to go ahead and put my ruler there. I'm going to go all the way to the vanishing point, so now I have all 4 of those lines. Now the next step is to create the back of my box. Just like I did here, I need to create a back end for this box as well. So That line is parallel to this one right here. And just like before, this line, I'm gonna go straight down and create the back end of this box that happens to be parallel to this. These two lines are parallel, those two lines are parallel, and there is a 90-degree corner here. And now the next step is to create a line that is parallel to the front of the box, the bottom, back here, right where those two lines hit. I'm gonna go straight that way. And the goal is to be parallel, so this is always tricky. This takes practice. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And then I need to create the back corner, this line that goes straight up and down that's parallel to this one. That goes next. And this is usually when you can tell if your square is a little bit off, and I think mine is. I think you can already tell it's a little tiny bit off, but close enough. That's actually not too bad. For being free-handed completely, that's not too bad. Same idea as before. I'm gonna trace over this to make that stand out, just like I did with this one here. I traced over that one in blue. Notice that I did just the exterior. I did not do the inside. Leave the inside alone, but this way you can demonstrate to me that you are creating the exterior of this box, okay? And then again, erase this line on the inside, which is, it would be this one in here. Do not confuse it with the line here at the corner of the box. So a lot of this is about not losing your step where you went. So those are two boxes so far. I'm gonna do one more at the top, and then I'm gonna let you guys come up with your own two shapes over here somewhere. One more on the top, one more on the bottom. So let me do this little one floating. One thing about this, technically, you can do it this way, how I'm gonna show you. And I do encourage you to do it from above, but you could also always flip it upside down and then just do it this way. If you've gotten used to going like towards the vanishing point up, technically that would be correct. But I'm gonna keep it this way because you should be able, regardless of where on your paper you are, you should be able to draw to the vanishing point no matter which way you have your paper. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and start at the top. Okay, so there's my little square. It's just a square by itself, right? Floating in space. And same idea as what you did before. You're gonna take all of the corners and you're gonna make them go to the vanishing point. Line 1. Line 2. Line 3, and on the inside, just like before, same thing. This is gonna be line 4, and sometimes the lines line up very close to each other. Notice how these two are almost on top of each other. You gotta be really careful you don't lose sight of your lines, but they must go to the vanishing point. So sometimes they do run over each other. Just like before, I'm going to go ahead and add my back line here. Notice that this one looks a lot longer, more like a shoebox versus some of these other ones that are little squares. Try to get different shapes if you can, or lengths. And so I'm gonna really have an elongated back on this one. So here we go. I'm gonna make it end about maybe right here. That'll give me that effect of a long box, okay? And at that point, I'm gonna go up because this line that I just put in is parallel to this bottom one, but now I gotta do the back end of this one. That has to be parallel to this. And that's actually a good technique that you could do, is you could line it up and then just drag it back to where that line ends and then put it in there. And hopefully it's still pretty straight up and down. So that's the back end of that box. The last step to do is to do the inside like we did before. So we need to create a line that's parallel to this top one, back here. So just like this, it's parallel here. I'm gonna come down, put this in, trying to judge whether it's parallel still here. I think it is. And then the last thing is I need to put a line that's parallel to this one right here. I'm gonna put it back here. And this one I think I'm a little bit, feels a little bit crooked. Feels like a little bit off, but I think that's not too bad. So at this point, I would trace over all of this. I'm gonna spare you watching me trace over it, but I do want you guys to trace over yours just so I can see it clearly, and you can see it clearly that that is the outline of that third shape, okay? I have labeled it, so I want you to label it as well. Your horizon line, your vanishing point, that's what the VP stands for. And you're gonna do that to your paper. And then once you are done with these three, just like what you just watched me do, I need for you guys to create one more up here. You could do one or two up here and then one down below. Fill up your space so that way your paper is filled with all these squares going to the vanishing point. Eventually we'll get to maybe some curved shapes, so you can do this with circles as well. But for today, let's just keep it simple. Let's do squares or rectangles, and that should do it. Let me know if you have any questions about this.